Okay, cool. So we are recording. Mr. Ben, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I am doing okay. I haven't lost all my money in GameStop, so I can't really complain.
I was so behind the eight ball on that. I just, I'm a little into stocks and the whole like crypto game, but I just really just didn't really catch that until it was mainstream already and, kind of already
Yeah, once Main
over.
once Main Street kind of like the media gets a handle of it, a hold of it, it's kind of over, right?
Yeah, it's already too late. And the Reddit guys and the people who got in early definitely made bank. So kudos to them
Oh, absolutely.
for exposing the system and you
Just
know
bringing attention to it, you know?
yeah. I mean it's totally 100% corrupt all the time, but it's okay if you're the 1%. But anytime it's a 99% that tries to get that, it becomes a big deal, and now they want to change the rules and
Right.
stuff. um, but that it doesn't surprise me, especially just coming off a crazy year like 2020, 2021. I just I don't think it's going to particularly like let up. I think
Yeah.
we have like 90 days or 80 something days until they have to release some UFO
Oh, yeah.
information or so that's not even like in the news. There's
It's
so much else going on like all the time. And then obviously we're dealing with so much misinformation and disinformation, so it's just like an influx of just constant information where a lot of things that are to me important or like life changing, life altering, history making is just kind of getting thrown under the rug you know
the floodgates are open on information and what to take in, what not to take in. It becomes difficult.
And yeah, during this time, especially everybody home a lot, your main thing is like your phone or your computer, whatever you access social media by, or even just your browser. And when when you're like you said, like the floodgates are open when you're on one of those said sites, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. um it's just constant, just thrown at you. And being that so many people have been home so much more, they've been more available to kind of get taken over by a lot of that misinformation and disinformation,
Right.
following certain things down the rabbit hole. And before you know it, you're believing in the queue and all of that stuff.
Right. So before we go any further,
Yeah.
can you do yourself? Can you do everyone a favor and introduce yourself?
My name is Ben Travers. I'm a sound engineer and drum tech. I live in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. Currently not on the road. The music industry is at a standstill right now. But I also own a studio in downtown Wilkes-Barre called Astrology Days, and just plugging along there, and still being able to mix and edit and master and stuff, and host some Astrology Day sessions where bands will come in and kind of perform a set, and we'll record them live and then premiere it live at a later date.
So
For
right
people.
now with COVID, do you still have bands going in and recording?
We do. We just take as much precaution as possible. Obviously, masks until the performance, and then I check temperatures, um, and obviously I ask if anyone's feeling ill or whatever like that. But yeah, you just try to take as best precautions as possible.
Yeah, and I do think that there's value in doing as much normal stuff as possible, but like you said, being cautious and being smart about it, right?
Yeah, you're just trying to kind of, it's just another thing that's being thrown at us. It's just another thing we have to learn to take a negative and turn into a positive. And there's just going to be that learning curve, and new protocols and new things that we're just going to have to adapt I'm pretty good at adapting to things, and this is just another thing to add to the plate. But as artists, musicians, come in, I have to make them feel comfortable, but at the same time, I have to be comfortable. So it's like kind of
Right.
setting, just a protocol and being like, hey, this is just everyone kind of is more understanding now, especially for, I think, people's feelings. Maybe something like this can, in the end, be a little more beneficial, looking at people's empathy and sympathy towards people in their situations. But like if somebody's, not feeling it, you're just more understanding now, especially just during these times. So I didn't want to kind of stop completely and just be like, oh, shit, I can't really do anything. I wanted to kind of just continue on and just keep plugging along as little, and then as, just going with kind of the guidelines, and listening to the science. And they're saying, if people are wearing masks and you're washing your hands, and you're no one has a fever, no one's been in contact with anybody who particularly has had the virus in X amount of time, you should be cool.
Right.
Also, we're you know not 65 to 75-year-olds in there doing it. We're more the 25 to 35-year-olds.
Do you get a lot
So
of bands that are 65 to 75?
no, I have I have toured on the road with a lot of bands that are 60 plus,
Okay.
even crew guys that are in their 70s. um
Right, right.
but that all that all stopped in March. um
So you
but
so
yeah,
you, you did mention that you're not traveling currently, and I assume that's mainly because of COVID, right?
COVID and just like winter time is usually a slow time for touring anyway. The band I mainly work with, Twiddle, they're based out of Vermont. Right now we worked up until, September or so, doing drive-ins or so. And then as soon as it got cold, we did a couple like live streams, and then they went into the studio to record a new album. So we're kind of on like a mini, just hiatus as it is. But also due to COVID, nobody's touring or really playing any gigs for people right now as it is. And so we're just taking a little mini break, and then probably come spring, April or so, when it starts to warm up, we'll get back to the drive-in live stream thing.
How was
Leading into the
the
summer.
live stream? I know I have a actually my very first guest. He's the drummer of a band called Youth League, and he recently had a show where they did it all via Zoom, and I didn't get to attend, but you know, I kind of imagine it's almost like a stand-up show via Zoom, right? Where it's there, you kind of get a third of the experience, if even that much. Like, what's your experience with band shows via Zoom?
It's I mean, there has been, I guess, a variety of experiences, but the main kind of vibe is that it's just kind of, you're like on a stage, or you're just playing, you're on a TV show in a way, and there's no audience. It's and
Mm,
a lot of what we go off of um is the reciprocal feelings that we get from the crowd.
right,
The crowd
right.
is, kind of giving us stuff, and then we're giving it back, and it's just
Yep.
going around and around. And, as a crew member, as a crew guy, it's totally different too, because usually we're feeding off of the energy from the band, and the band is feeding off the energy from the crowd. So it's all kind of going around, because the band's having a great time, and then we're having a great time, because like everything's working. Everyone's having a great time, the crowd's having a great time. But live stream, it's just pretty much just dead, in the room.
Yeah.
So it had to, another learning curve, as we talked about, just another thing that you had to get used to. Not that you thought, oh, this is going to be it, or this is going to be, I mean, everything's temporary, right? But it's just something where, we just kind of had to get into a different mindset. More, I think, the band obviously than the crew. We have a job. We set up the drums, or I get the monitors set up, and everyone's happy. And then action. Okay, our jobs are not over, but they have to perform. And they have to do
Mm-hmm.
their job, and they have to kind of play and give it their all as if they're playing in front of 10,000 people, which is really hard when you're playing in a little theater that holds 100 people and there's maybe 15 people there all together, crew and band. Um, so yeah, it was something to get used to. The drive-in thing is a little bit better, because obviously there's people there, but then it's a whole separation vibe because usually the crowd is right up on the stage. We call them, like rail riders, and they're just like
Mm.
right up on the stage. And they're obviously, giving us and feeding immense energy. But now it's set back 20, 30 feet, maybe 40 feet, and there's just lines of cars, and now people can be in their car. Sometimes they could be outside of their car, depending on what state you're in.
And how does
There's so
that
many
work? Do
different.
they do you actually play out of speakers, or do people tune in to a radio station to
It
hear
var
it?
it varied this summer where some places they had noise ordinances where you couldn't have a PA. So everyone was just you're pretty much playing. There was some obviously stage volume, and everyone was tuning into a certain station and getting in their cars. Then there was also places where we were playing where we had a full PA, and we had some infills, which are speakers that are on the stage shooting out towards the crowd as well. Um and also having the radio station. So we would just have to time delay it so the speakers on the stage weren't delaying and making it sound weird in your car if you were listening to, on the speakers, from the radio station. So there was different, obviously variables with that to deal with.
Wait, you were delaying it on from coming out of the speakers so that it would be in tune with the radio?
Yeah, so wherever the transmitter, the FM transmitter was, you would delay your PA system back to that. So then
Right.
so then your PA was pretty much for, say, the first 20 rows. And then from 20 rows to row 50 or something, mainly the people were listening to the radio station. So you didn't want like there to be some weird delay from people in the front and back and vice versa. So you're trying to make like a nice blend. So the PA, when it ends or when it like kind of like dissipates sound wise towards row 20 or something, then the FM transmitter would take over.
Doesn't that mess up the musicians?
Well, the my musicians that I'm working for are on in-ears, so they have in-ear monitors.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
they're really not hearing anything but the mixes that I'm giving them. But yes, there is definitely, the case where if a band is on wedges, monitors, just regular speakers facing them, and they're getting their certain mix, there could be definitely issues. But that's all like the kind of learning curves that you learn, and you kind of just roll with it, and something that this is what we do. We just kind of roll with it,
So
make it
before
work.
before COVID, where would you be traveling?
Well, before COVID, I was on the road with Twiddle, and we were finishing up our like first half of our spring tour. So I was on the road pretty much from September to March with different bands. I was started off with Steve Hackett. He was the guitar player from Genesis, and then I also toured with a trio called The Special. I'm a front of house engineer for that, and then going into working with Twiddle, and then going into working with Mike Gordon. Mike Gordon is the bass player of Fish. I'm the drum tech, keyboard tech, and percussion tech in that band. And we did a winter tour, and that led right into another Twiddle tour. And that Twiddle tour lasted up until where we got kind of the call like, hey, this virus is going around and people don't really know what's going on. So kind of just take precaution. Gigs might get canceled, they might not. And we were in Montana, and we had about 4 gigs left on the tour. So it was like Montana times 2, and then I think Oregon, and then Seattle, or LA, Oregon, Seattle, something
So
like
you were
that
going
combination.
all over the country.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. With Twiddle, we toured all over. Mike Gordon as well. Um, but yeah, I've traveled all the states except Hawaii and Alaska so far. Um, but right around March,
No concerts in Alaska or in
no,
Hawaii.
no concerts yet in Hawaii and Alaska. At least no tours.
That should be part of your goal after
uh,
COVID.
I know. I'd like to just actually visit both of those places. For sure, but
Not for work.
not for work.
I
But
mean, it'd be pretty
work
cool
would
to
be
have
cool
like
too.
a concert right on the beach in Hawaii.
No, that would be great. They do have a couple concert venues, but they're kind of like um I don't know. It's sometimes not in my scene to get those gigs. It's like, maybe higher up on the food chain, and they would be
Right.
like, stuff like that. But hopefully sometime. I rather go to other countries, to be honest.
Have you gone to
Uh,
other countries
I
to
have,
tour?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I've traveled a lot of Europe, tons of Canada and Mexico, and Japan a few times.
Really?
Hmm.
Would you say that you can notice a difference in the audience? Not obviously, not because, they're not white or black or whatever, but um, just in their style or in the way they express themselves? Or is music kind of like that one unifying experience that everybody kind of gets in and you'd see no difference?
I mean, music is definitely, I think, the ultimate unifier, right? But everyone internalizes it and processes it differently. And Americans, like we don't really have a culture. but but I do feel Europeans, there's just a different enthusiasm, especially in Asia, in Japan, where they just the appreciation level, and maybe it wasn't, like, maybe it's not all music, or maybe it's not every show that they go
Mm-hmm.
to,
Mm-hmm.
but what I experienced, especially just the way that they treated us, then I think that it's like that all the time. But it was just like this immense enthusiasm where um they really just were enjoying themselves and living in the present moment. um I guess that's like kind of the best way I could explain it, because I feel like Americans are just very ignorant and kind of um more music, and not all Americans,
Right,
but a
right.
lot of the times music is something secondary happening where they are. It's just background. Where
Okay.
in now in my world, or at least what I'm working with, people are coming out to see that specific show. But then you're also, in tons of towns and cities and states where there's just that corner bar, or the casino, or whatever, where music is playing and it's free, and then people get all like in a huff about paying a $10 or $15 cover because of XYZ, where again, the appreciation level of like, oh, there's music playing, and oh, there's a band playing, and they have a crew, and they have X amount of dollars on the stage worth of gear, and like all these things that go into play with a show, where I think that, again, like there's just a different appreciation level um with everything, really, kind of verse,
Well, I'll admit,
us.
I'm one of those that until recently I was very ignorant and didn't really appreciate music for what it was. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I either passed on a concert or went to a venue with live music where, yeah, it's cool, but like you said, it's kind of just background, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know what happened. I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah, I think it was around 4 years ago where all of a sudden I started to see the beauty in it, the difficulty in it, the complexity of it, and that's just the music itself. Not to mention the equipment, like you said, right? It takes
Mm-hmm.
man hours to kind of put it up and then take it down, right? And the level of skill all around, from the people that are putting stuff together to the musicians. Um, and so lately, I mean, the last couple of years, I've started to go to concerts. I started to kind of appreciate it more, and I came to the conclusion, and I don't even know how to word this, but I have this theory that complex music, as in not just one person going hum hum hum, but actually having layers and complexity and stuff like that, that is the ultimate sign of intelligence and the ultimate sign of civilization. So yeah, somebody might be able to go code up, how to build a bomb or something, right? Like, congratulations. I think anybody in the universe can probably learn that, but not anybody can go in and extract emotions out of another human being, which is what music does, right?
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
And
And to go with that point, I just feel like what I've seen in Europe or Asia, just especially in other countries, and maybe it's the bands that I'm touring with at that time. But what I saw from just the attention level, we're so distracted as a society. Um, Even going to shows, you see these people are paying like hundreds of dollars to go sit at a basketball game, but they're on their phones the whole fucking time.
yeah,
I just never understood. I just never understood that. But when you go to see shows in other countries, I just didn't see that. I saw just again like a different kind of level of know-how. Just
yeah. Some
um
appreciate, like, a different level of appreciation of where they are.
yeah, for sure. Just mindfulness, awareness, just being present, especially in Japan. They were just the most intense crowd I've ever come across.
Yeah, Japan's a different world. It's not even.
It really
It's
is.
not Earth.
No, no, no. It really is in a whole other world. Being like, in like Osaka, and it's like being in the city, and it's just like Manhattan times 10.
Yeah, it's out of this world. So when you're touring and you're setting up for all of these musicians, is there a time, like, just I get so curious about these things, and I'll give an example, but is there a time where something just goes wrong, and like what happens, right? Because the only time I've ever seen something go wrong at a music event was back when I was maybe first, second, third year of college. I went and saw Kanye West, and the light guy kept messing up when to like flash him or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Kanye just stopped the whole concert just to yell at him. And looking back on it, it's like the biggest dick move. But at the time, I mean, we all ate it up, right? We're like, yeah, tell him, Kanye, tell him how to do his job.
Sure. And he's probably the guy just freaking out in his head, but it's our job to stay super cool and to, you're running like massive Rolodex in your head of just problem solving. And you've done it for X amount of years. So your Rolodex is just getting bigger and bigger. And when a problem arises, usually you can pinpoint a section of that Rolodex to go to, right? And then you can kind of go through those kind of things and hopefully, set aside the stuff that doesn't make sense or is obviously not that's not making it work, and then find exactly what it is. I mean, there's been numerous times where, somebody's guitar is just not working. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or and you have to suss it out, figure it out on the fly while the whole band is playing. My job as a monitor engineer, I have to take care of 4 people's mixes throughout the show, but also I'm the drum tech. So throughout the show, there could be things that are happening on the drum kit itself, cymbal falling down, a drum leg dropping, something not working on his SPDS sample pad, a microphone falling. Those are all things that you kind of have to be mindful and aware of. Now you want to, kind of make sure before the gig that all of your, you know, T's are crossed and I's are dotted. But anything could really happen. You just kind of have to be ready for the shit to hit the fan and be kind of open to that in a way too.
So
You kind of want to allow it to kind of happen.
right, it what is? Do you have an example where everything just kind of like shit hit the fan and you're like, oh my god,
Um,
or are you
hmm.
just too good for that to
No,
happen?
no. I mean, I've definitely, and in the last, 10+ years on the road, have had many, many hiccups. But that's the thing is like mistakes are good. Mistakes happen. It's you're not wanting to repeat mistakes. That's where it becomes an issue. Um, but I mean, one big kind of, I guess, blunder that I had was I forgot to turn this woman Sonia. She was a acoustic guitar player. We were playing in Japan. She was sitting in on I we was working for this band UK at the time. They were a really big prog rock band in the 70s, and they were doing kind of a reunion gig, and they were kind of having special guests play with them in Japan. And we had like 2 or 3 days of rehearsals and stuff. And I had many jobs on that tour. Not only was I the drum tech and like the stage left manager, but I was also taking care of the prompter for one of the singers. So the prompter was coming back to my laptop and I was running the lyrics for him. So, he was reading from a little mini screen, what I was giving him. And one of my jobs during the set was to hand off the acoustic guitar to Sonia and pretty much walk her to her chair and in the middle of the stage. And then she was going to start the song, and she was really just oblivious to what was really going on anyway, and she could hear her guitar in the house because it was coming through, but it wasn't coming through to anybody's mix. um because I didn't turn her pack on, but she also had a mic up to it, I believe. I think that was the case. And again, this is out, and this isn't a sold out show. This is like 1,000 people sold out show in
Christ.
Japan. And I like no one could really figure out what's going on. And then I go over, I'm like, oh my God, your brain goes, oh my God, I didn't turn the wireless pack on. And I run over there, flashlight, boom, hit the wireless pack, and then boom, the acoustic guitar comes out, just and obviously it was like a little snag, and it didn't make the night perfect. And again, shit happens.
Yeah.
And then the next night it didn't happen again. We had to do it again. And those things, you learn from, and you move on. Yeah, you just kind of keep it, my whole thing is you're as good as your last gig, so you can grade yourself, and you could definitely be harder on yourself. And I'm definitely harder on myself than anyone could be on me. But, you just learn, you learn from those things. That's really the best thing that you could take from it.
Do the
Instead of,
musicians ever pull a Kanye and start yelling at you?
oh, I've definitely had, I've definitely had tours of that. Um, but rightfully so. It's a very kind of high stressed, high, you know, um, yeah, just a very like high stress, high angst, anxiety kind of, job, especially, being that everyone's going through their own thing in life, but then we're all together, 10+ people on a tour bus for like 3 weeks straight, or 2 months straight, or 3 months straight. It's just a lot to be around any people, let alone
Yep.
people that you have to work with and you have to get along with, just to kind of keep cool. Everyone has their own little cliques, and the people that you get along with are the people you always have breakfast with, or you could rap about life with, or talk shit. But you do have to get along with everyone and be cordial, and sometimes um you you just have to kind of let things out, and that
Yeah.
comes both ways. And I think like the best bands and crews are ones that have that kind of understanding, the common understanding that like shit's gonna happen. It's like a family. People are gonna blow up sometimes, but as long as you can communicate and come to a understanding, that everything's cool,
You're on the same team.
we're on the same team, we're on the same page. Let's just go out there and crush. Then it's all good.
Hell yeah. So the the stereotype is when musicians go touring, yeah, it's a lot of hard work, but there's a lot of partying. Is that something that's accurate, or does it depend on the band?
Definitely depends on the band. I mean, I've worked for bands that we've been, three guys stuck in a Jetta completely full of gear and merch, going to each gig, getting paid like $50 and barely being able to get a hotel and having to like crash on some crackhead's like couch, or now being like on a tour bus or flying to every gig. But the bands that I'm like flying to gigs to are like the 60-plus-year-old dudes that are kind of over the partying thing. They have the family, they got the wife and kids vibe, you know. They're having a nice glass of wine after a gig. And then there's the in between where I could be working with gigs on the road, and there's definitely nights of letting loose, and rightfully so. You work for a week or two straight, 16, 18-hour days. You definitely want to have some fun, and you're in like a cool spot you've never been to before, or you meet some people you've never obviously met. But it definitely depends on the band. But a lot of the times, especially the bands that I'm working with now, um, they have the family set up and the wife and kids, and everybody is just treating it like a business,
Mm.
and just going out there and just having fun and playing music for a living, and yeah.
Yeah, I see. I'm in my head every time I see, at least not anymore because of COVID, but when I used to see some of the younger bands, wherever it was, I would always imagine that afterwards they all just go out and get shit faced.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe not.
I know that's definitely happening. uh but the bands that, or maybe just like the level where I'm at now, I also,
Yeah, yeah.
early on in my career, I started at a music venue. I started off as a dishwasher and at a music venue, and I worked my way up to general manager. And at the same time, I was going to school for sound, and it was more studio concentrated, but then started doing sound at this venue as well, and just kind of fell more into the live aspect of it, just a more adrenaline rush, and that
Yeah.
you're getting one kind of take. But being that, I started there at 19, and I was already kind of over partying by the time I got to 21. Just because like it was already there, for me at any time that I wanted. And then getting on the road is kind of different because like as a crew guy, you can party and stuff, but you still have to particularly perform early on in the day compared to maybe a musician or artist.
They get to sleep in.
Yeah, well, again, depending on the tour. But if there is a crew and the band is just playing, and they don't have to obviously take part in the load in and all that stuff, then yeah, they can just kind of hang out and rest up until game time. But we might have like a 10 o'clock in the morning, 10 a.m. load in. So if you're partying till 2, 3, 4 a.m. and you got to work at 10 a.m., it might not be the best day for you. And I have had a couple of those and just kind of been like, I'm kind of over feeling like poop,
Yeah.
in the morning.
Yeah. No, are you anxious to get back on the road?
I have been pretty anxious the last couple months. Like I said, I was working for almost 6 months straight. So right when the pandemic happened, I was on the road in Montana, and we got word that our last three gigs got canceled. So they opted on taking the bus, the band and crew, the rest of the crew, and just driving back to the East Coast. I have some friends in Montana, so obviously Montana's very wide open and stuff. So there was nothing going on at that moment with COVID at all. So I hung back for a couple days and just chilled out and kind of just saw what was happening in like the country and the world, and then just flew back. And the first couple months was great. I was like just kind of taking care of some, some shit that I had to take care of, and just getting a new solid like routine, playing basketball again, again working out, eating better. But then missing the road, missing traveling, just missing the whole grind.
Yeah.
Meeting people. I just feel that I as a person, as a human, operate better on the road.
Mm.
So being home and being kind of stuck is a wrong word, but right now we're kind of all stuck, because
Yeah.
we can't travel, or we can't travel openly where we're not like being stared at, or like who's he, where is he from, so right now I'm a little anxious, just being that I feel that I'm not being creative, or as creative as I can be. And I'm very grateful and so appreciative that I have my studio, and that I could still play drums every day, and I could still rehearse and practice, and have some bands over here and there. But it's not like the road, and it's not like working with my brothers, and like putting on rock shows. So there is that divide, where I am missing it.
Yeah, and I feel you, man. I originally actually studied film and television production,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was always part of the crew at whether it was a TV station or a film set or something, and your grip or lights or whatever. And yeah, I mean, you go out there and you do stuff, and you're moving and you're solving problems, and it's sometimes hell, but it's always a rush. And like you said, I'm grateful that I get to sit down and make a good living, and I'm safe in my apartment. I can work from home. But man, I lately I started to get that itch to kind of like do stuff. And once I started to do a little bit of stand up, just going the grind, like, oh, you got to go to this place at this time. Oh, on this night, you got to do this. And just going out and like moving around, it was just amazing, right? Like I guess you're the same type of person that you feel better when you're actually doing and moving.
I just feel like
Um,
I'm learning.
mm-hmm.
If and I think you could obviously learn so much just sitting in your apartment, but I learned
Yep.
differently where I learned from people, because I'm just observant. And being on the road, you learn so much, but not as much from learning what people are doing right, but what they're doing wrong.
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
and traveling and going to all these different states and venues and cities and countries, you can really pick up on people.
Yep.
And the more that you're around different and a variety, it just strengthens you, as a more rounded person. Like you say, if you're doing a couple sets a week, right, and all different kind of clubs, and you're meeting all these different people, then your interaction with them is just going to totally change maybe some of your stuff for the better. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And them giving you some critique, and you giving other people's critique, and just talking shit, that could totally just be beneficial towards your set. um Without that, it's very like one dimensional, and that's kind of how I've been feeling, is like I'm not being able to be around some like-minded people. Especially where I live, it's just more of a small town kind of vibe. And just not being around like-minded people, especially when you're on the road, that's all you're around: musicians, artists, crew guys, bar owners, restaurant owners, music venue owners, the whole thing. And those are like my people. So I've just struggled, at least the last couple months, with being like, oh my God, like it is going to be probably another year of this.
Yeah.
And going like, well, at least spring is around the corner, and we can get back to some gigs, whether it is live stream or drive-in. But
Mm-hmm.
there is going to be that people interaction again, an aspect. Whether I don't care. I've never had a problem wearing the masks. It's just like whatever. I'll just let me put on a show.
Yeah.
um but at least they'll be that, we'll be able to see some of our friends again. And the winter is always hard for everybody. You're stuck in your house, it's dreary, it's cold. So I think spring is around the corner and just looking forward to that. But yeah, getting back to your question, I mean, I've definitely as of late have been just anxious and more like just overall depressed in a way, and probably not just seasonal or COVID related, but just like the regular kind of depression being a little heightened.
Yeah, I mean that's a real concern. I'm in that same boat, right? In the last couple months, it's like, man, it's hitting harder and harder. And I just talked to one of my friends on the phone, and she was telling me the same thing, right? She's like, man, like just being stuck indoors, I'm starting to get like depressed, right? It's a real concern. And yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're lucky to have your studio and still get to do a little bit of what you love, and that's awesome. But yeah,
Yeah, and I
this
do
pandemic
think
needs to be
about
over.
yeah, and I do think, again, I am one of the fortunate ones, and as I do have a motto, like, I woke up today, so that's definitely like something I put in my brain. But for so many, mental health is just being kind of passed over, and it's something that is just not being addressed like at all. I know COVID is real, and I know that over 400 plus thousand people have died, and there's so many more affected. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
what's happening now under kind of the radar is people, like you said, like being stuck inside, seasonal depression times COVID depression times a regular depression. It's just not a really good algorithm. And I just even locally, I'm seeing it more. There's definitely a pandemic within a pandemic. We have a heroin problem around here. We have a suicide problem around here, and that's all happening more and more because of people being home, not being able to go and see loved ones, talk to loved ones, have their regular routine that they might have had, maybe have lost their jobs. So yeah, it's definitely just something that I'm like always mindful of, and it just kind of puts me in my place, just noticing and being different perspective.
Oh yeah, and part of the reason that I started this podcast is to not only hear different perspectives, but to kind of give everyone an opportunity to just be a little bit more open minded and see that it's not just you going through this, right? It's literally everybody, and it's human nature to be social and be out and about, and for all of a sudden it's about to be a year of stuff being closed down, shut down, don't go outside, don't travel, don't do this. It's just not normal, and it's okay to feel what you feel, but you know like you said, it's around the corner. Like, it might not be next month that we're all free, but it's coming.
Yeah. In history, it will be a little blip on the map.
Exactly.
Hopefully, then again, it's just a shame really that hindsight's 2020, and we're looking at something that, potentially could have been not avoided at all, but something that could have definitely been addressed differently, where we wouldn't be in the situation that we're currently in. And it really is a bummer that things had to be political or get political,
Yeah.
and that there was an instant divide whether or not we were going to believe fucking science or doctors anymore, which
Right.
and then turn into where we are now, where it's still a shit show. We have no control over it, and there was no foundation or plan on how to distribute a vaccine. And now we're in a whole different kind of problem. It's like everybody wants the vaccine and ready to get on with their lives, and we have enough dosages, but we have no way of getting those doses to those said people. There was no plan, and now we're dealing with that. And then by the time we are dealing with that, then we're going to be dealing with the spring or summer. And by the time the spring or summer comes around, well, what is everyone going to want to do? They're going to want to go walking around and hang out with everybody and go to the beaches and go to parties and congregate. And then we're just going to see the cases go up again. So then the states have their own governors that are going to make rules or laws based on those numbers. And then we're just going to be in the same situation we were in last summer, leading into a fall. So it's like I'm getting, word of, oh, maybe we can go back on the road in the fall. But I just don't see how that could potentially work with states not working together, you
Yeah.
know. And again, we're dealing with a new president and maybe even people using the words unity, but there isn't any unity and there isn't going to be, They're it's just the same side of the coin, kind of thing.
I will be a little optimistic in saying that this virus kills mostly old folks. And once all of them are vaccinated, I think we'll be back to close to normal because I mean younger people like you and I mean we can catch it and we'll get sick for a little bit and usually we'll be okay. Not always.
Sure.
One of my best friends, he's a nurse, and he's seen young people come in with basically dead lungs because of the virus, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do I encourage anyone to go out and get it just to say, hey, we're going to do herd immunity or anything like that? No. But like you said, it's not mentally healthy to just sit back and do nothing all day.
No. And I also, have always been a firm believer of taking care of yourself first, being that you should be eating vitamins and you should be
Yep.
eating well and you should be drinking plenty of water and
You
you
only
should
have one body.
right. And you should be getting some exercise. And that's like pre-COVID. So if you were doing those things, you're already ahead of the curve. Then you introduce some zinc into that and some vitamin D, and you're already even better. The fact to me is that I feel like instead of suppressing your immune system, you should be putting your immune system to work. That's
Yep.
what it's there for. A lot of the times where people are shut-ins or recluse and they don't go out, they actually get more allergies and actually more allergic to things because their immune system actually gets super heightened, which means that they actually become more, allergic to other things that they wouldn't have been allergic to.
Hmm.
Your immune system is there to take care of your body, and I feel a lot of the times people don't even do the basic kind of things, and then they wonder why they get sick like all the time. Especially now with COVID, I feel like main thing is to social distance and be safe and to wear your masks at all times where you need to wear your masks. But you shouldn't, I think, limit your life where you're not leaving your house.
Yeah.
Now, if you're not going to, obviously, I'm not saying go out and be at a party with 35 strangers, but you should go for a walk daily,
absolutely.
if you can. And like, and don't go into the grocery store and like be spraying everything with Lysol, like go in there, enjoy yourself, get the food that you need and then leave and then come home and wash your hands and your face and you're cool,
Yeah.
But a lot of the people that are, saying like, oh my God, don't leave your house or don't do this or don't do that. It's like, hey, you do have your own personal choice and that's totally cool. But for the majority, I think it's better for people to, change their routine a little bit, but not drastically say, okay, I'm going to just quarantine for the next year, and not leave my house and order everything in and never go for a walk or never do a sit up.
Yeah. Dude, at least one sit up a day.
Please,
No,
you gotta break sweat at least once a day.
right? No, I've met and know people on both extremes where, hey, I'm not leaving my apartment ever, and I'm like, dude, that's not good. And other people who are like, masks for what? I'm gonna go out there and make out with everybody, and I'm like, well, no, don't do that either. If we can all just find a solid balance, this country would be so much better off.
Yeah, and it's just crazy because I've been to countries that are the size of New Jersey, and we have 300 million people in this country. And as you saw from the last election, it's pretty divided. Whether or not you fall on the Trump or Republican bandwagon or whatever, it's still something where like you're looking at, I'm a numbers guy, so I'm just looking at, okay, wow, 49% of the country still voted, 47 whatever percent still voted for him. That's a lot. And that's a lot that were on the side of not particularly of science or wearing a mask or social distancing, um, so we'll see going forward. Obviously the numbers haven't really scared a lot of people, and there's still people that, want to do their own thing. But I think it is time to get things back, and we just have to have a plan. What I wanted to see from Biden coming in was that he was going to have a potential like 100-day plan, where there was things that were going into action and a vision of getting things back to, in quotation marks, normal, because what is normal? But
Yeah.
to each normal, we're going to get back to that as best as possible, which means schools will come back, restaurants and bars can reopen, parks and these things can open. And obviously the last thing usually will be the music industry, which is a bummer, but I understand. But there's so many kind of variables that are going to have to be fixed or looked at before stuff can return.
Yeah.
Even like something like a show, say Madison Square Garden, right? It's a Live Nation or AEG room. They have to ensure 20,000 people that they're going to be safe at this show, that it's not a super spreader event, So they're going to have to prove certain ways on that. Are they going to ask people for a negative COVID test? Are they going to ask you for proof of getting the vaccine? Are they going to be doing temperature control? Or are you going to have to sign a waiver? There's going to be all these things. And before they can give you that guarantee, I just don't see them really returning because it's just not worth it. And I also believe, and I've said this a couple times to some friends, and we've had this conversation, is that I believe that it really is going to come down to insurance companies. Biggest thing is that everything is insured. you know Whether you drive a car or you own a business or you're putting on a show, and all of these little clauses and little fine print is going to change post COVID and getting back into the real world, because
Right.
people aren't going to obviously want to be liable for that. So if you're putting on a show at a outdoor event or indoor event and you have 15, 20, 25,000 people at that, how are you going to ensure that all these people are safe, to be there, and that the event will be covered by some insurance company that says, okay, I know that you're doing X, Y, and Z, and that these people can't sue us if somebody gets sick or dies, from this certain event. So all those things are going to have to be kind of talked about and looked into. And I guarantee all of the big companies and honchos right now are doing that, because they're losing millions and millions of dollars as we speak.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah.
And a lot of the bands that obviously I work with too are losing money every day, every month. We're just staying afloat, probably barely. But yeah, I just think that, getting back is just going to be a little bit more of an uphill battle than people really kind of think, especially being that we do still have this, immense divide as a country, political or not. This is just how it is. This is how it's being divided. It's like your team's red and your team's blue and you suck. And, it's just like, well, okay. And it's always been that way, but it's just heightened more because we live in the kind of the internet era. We live in the social media era now, where everything is just thrown at us like every nanosecond by swiping. And there's so much information overload. But like I said earlier, that there's so much misinformation and disinformation. And that's where all it really has stemmed from, is that people don't really know what to gravitate towards, or what is true, or who's working for who, or what, who's in whose back pocket,
So did you storm the Capitol?
I was very far from it. I found out that I definitely knew some people, I guess, that were down there that I didn't really expect or think that would be down there. So that was very surprising, you know. And I've definitely, have maybe lost some friendships or relationships over the certain kind of events the last couple of years, but it's just something that I have to kind of stand by. It's not, to me, it was like long gone with like policy, it was more and more turning into like more of a cult,
Well, I was on Twitter earlier today, and somebody tweeted an article talking about how the Democrats they knew the riot was coming, and so they're trying to pin it on the Democrats now.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I think both sides are like completely corrupt.
I agree.
Um,
Yeah.
and I don't think that there's really any guy, maybe Bernie, that has anyone's like right, uh, or they have their life or thinking about them in any way, you know what I mean? Like all these people are just thinking about themselves and their immediate friends and the other 1%ers. um but that's what we're looking at. We're just looking at a complete like divide as a country, and I think going forward that's something that what needs to be kind of addressed, but it's so hard because again there's so much distrust with everything that's going on. um Simply as like these people on the right aren't accepting the election, they're not going to accept it for the next 4 years, just like there's people on the left that didn't accept the last 4 years.
Yeah.
So we're just in
Hashtag not my president.
yeah, and we're just in this constant kind of bickering game going back and forth and back and forth. And again, I don't really see like an end in sight like in that. And it's kind of crazy. It's like they have us because it's like this complete smoke and mirrors where everybody's just like so engulfed in what's going on with the impeachment times two and Biden and what's Trump going to do in 2024 and whatever. But there's so much things that are happening behind the curtain, that no one's really paying attention to.
Yeah, I think
Um,
I think the only way to move forward beyond the division is if everybody just turns off their Facebook, their Instagram, whatever it may be, and just make sure that you and your neighbor are okay. Are people around you hungry? Then maybe donate to food shelters and food banks and whatever, and then literally maybe go to a library or Google information, um, and look for the most reputable sources, right? And then if you do that, then you're not going to be posting on Facebook saying, the left did this or the right did that. It's like, hey, shut up. Nobody cares, right? Because all that does is increase the volume of the echo chamber that everybody lives in already.
mm-hmm.
And so this is why I'm a huge fan of people actually doing things as opposed to just saying things. And I'm guilty of criticizing, both sides. Most of my friends are left leaning, so naturally I'll criticize them just to kind of poke fun of them. But the right side, left side, who cares? They're all, like you said, they're all corrupt. It's hard to find a politician that actually means well towards the general public in the country.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I think the only way we can move forward is everybody just turn everything off, go outside, make sure your community is doing okay, mind your own damn business, right? Like, who cares if the state of Arkansas is passing a law that, whatever. The people of Arkansas, they know what's going on and they will fight for it, and whatever injustice is going on, right? If everybody just focuses on their own community, we'll be okay.
Yeah, we might have a chance.
Yeah. And then we'll come out of it and everyone will love each other and COVID will be over and everyone will make good money.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that we will get out of it. COVID will be in the past. It will be something that we'll learn from, something that we'll have to deal with for the next X amount of years, but we'll have a grip on it. and I really do think that the music industry is going to blow up.
Yeah, I
And
mean, if there's like music stocks out there, tell me because I will buy all of them
I
because
know,
there's
right?
so much pent up demand.
Well, whether it's, I mean, whether there's definitely probably stock in Live Nation or AEG, one of the bigger booking agent, kind of things. But I just think from small music venue all the way up to outdoor
Everything's going to be sold out.
festival, it will, yeah, exactly. People are going to be hungry. People are going to be itching to come out and support whatever.
Yep.
So it's just like, for bands and venues to be ready when we do get the green light.
Well, I'll tell you what. As soon as COVID is over, or even before then, if you're doing a show somewhere, I will try and make it to that show.
Hell yeah. Where do
I'm
you
all
live
in.
right now?
I'm in New York City right now,
All right, cool.
so not too far away.
Yeah. My sister lives in Astoria. She was in Manhattan for the last like 5 years or so.
Yeah, I've debated going to Queens, but I don't know. Like I'm just so hooked to Central Park.
Yeah.
I live maybe a 7-minute walk from Central Park, and,
Oh,
and
cool.
just the luxury of having that park is so
Yeah.
nice.
Oh yeah. She loved her location too, but with the new job opportunity, and then just having the opportunity again to just be closer to work, I think it just,
No, it makes sense.
yeah, it just made sense to be in Astoria. Plus, she's able to have her live by herself for the cost of money by living in Manhattan on, I think it was Avenue C, and paying that for living with two other girls. So it's definitely nice to have your own place.
Oh, it's totally worth it.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you for making the time to talk to
Hell yeah,
me.
man.
And
Thank you
no,
so much for having me.
yeah, for sure. And like I said, whenever the venues open up, even if it's in 2-3 months and there's a safe outing or something, I'm all in.
Cool. No, I'll definitely keep that in mind. I guarantee we'll be playing somewhere close to the city, if not in the city.
Yeah, and again, thank you, and hopefully you'll be back on here, not in the not so distant future.
Yeah, we did that.
All right, man. Thanks,
Pablo. I appreciate it.
See ya.